Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube page again. My name is Eric, and we are back with part 2 of responding to Kristi Burke. Now, for those who weren't here last time, she is an atheist YouTuber who talks about Christianity from the perspective of an ex-Christian, and in this video, I am particularly responding to her video on 6 times that Jesus wasn't all love and peace. At least, not according to her. Now, in my first part, we talked about how she was mistaken in her sentiment that Jesus was somehow anti-family, or just wanted to have people do physical combat in his name. Again, none of that was true, and you can go back and look for that video if you want to see that. But today we're going to be talking about a new topic, specifically Gentiles. So let's hear what she has to say this time.
Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it, yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, born in Syrian Phoenicia. She begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. "First, let the children eat all they want," he told her, "for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." "Lord," she replied, "even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Then he told her, "For such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." She went home and found her child lying on the bed and the demon gone. Consider that this woman was not a Jew. Jesus said himself in Matthew 15:24 that his mission was to minister to the Jews, to the people of Israel. So Jesus had a very specific set of people in mind that it was his purpose to minister to, and she was not a part of those people. And so when she comes asking for this demon to be released from her daughter, and instead of helping her right away, Jesus says, it's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. You are the dogs. I'm not going to just toss bread to the dogs. It didn't really seem like a situation where Jesus just genuinely wanted to help someone.
Going off of Mark 7, it says, verse 24, Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it, yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. Now, Jesus would often take breaks and very often would just go away from people. Again, we don't know why this happened. Perhaps the apostles were hungry or something else. We don't really know why. But either way, he didn't want to be seen. Now, notice what he does say here. He says, "First, let the children eat all they want, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." Now, he said, "First, let us do that." In other words, he wasn't saying, "No, I'm not going to do this." And we also have to keep something else in mind. The typical way Jesus performed miracles was to actually go to the person and heal them. So, most likely that is what the woman was asking for at first, which would have, of course, required Jesus to go out when he did not want to be seen at the moment. Jesus was not saying no, he was more saying not yet. But, of course, that was if she were to ask him to just walk out with her. But when she further demonstrated that she had faith, that Jesus could do it from where he was, then he said, not only do you have great faith, but he's like, fine, I'll do it right now. And this is very similar to the incident in Matthew 8 with the centurion, who was also a Gentile, who said, no, I know you don't even have to come here. You can just say it, and it'll be done. Now, Kristi asks, well, why didn't Jesus treat her immediately? Well, here's the thing. If Jesus had just come right out and told her, oh, it's okay. I can just heal him from a distance, or the daughter from a distance. Well, then she wouldn't have been able to demonstrate that she herself had the type of faith that she did. In other words, by doing this, he essentially showed how big her faith was to his disciples. Because if he told her that, they would say, oh, well, you just gave her the secret. What's so remarkable about that? But in fact, he was showing them that, look, this woman has great faith. In fact, he did the same thing with the centurion that I said earlier. Even that by itself, it would have presented her as a very honorable person. And likewise, if they saw a Gentile woman who had this type of faith, it would have impressed them, the apostles, that is. And it would have showed them that, wow, this Gentile woman, she has faith and she's just met Jesus. So clearly God is working with Gentiles. So, again, these kind of experiences would be necessary for them to experience to eventually get the idea that, yeah, God actually wants us to teach all nations, which is going to be a very important theme later in the Bible. Now, to Kristi's credit, she does acknowledge the fact that Jesus' use of the term dog probably, or at least in many cases at least, could not be as derisive as many people make it out to be. And she is correct. However, there is another point to this that I do want to bring up briefly for anybody who may not be quite as convinced. Analogies really only have to have one thing in common to be valid analogies. At least that was how a lot of human history has used them. In our day and age, we tend to over-literalize analogies, but it was not the case, at least not with Jesus. For example, he says that the day of the Lord, that he comes back, will come like a thief in the night. Now, his point is obvious that it's going to come at an unexpected time. Does that mean that he's comparing what he's doing to stealing and robbing somebody's house unjustly? Well, no. The only thing they have in common, and the only thing they need to have in common for the analogy to work, is that they're both a surprise. And in this case, it doesn't require that Jesus views a Gentile as a dog and the Hebrew kids as human beings. They just have in common a thing that, okay, these people I'm taking care of first, and then I'm taking care of this. But they're both still taken care of. And given Jesus' other interactions with Gentiles, it's pretty unlikely that this, I guess, less charitable interpretation of Jesus' interaction is true. The one in Matthew 8, the centurion who said, my servant is here, and he's suffering. Jesus volunteered and said, all right, I'll go and heal him. But instead, the centurion said, you don't have to. I know that you can do it just by saying the word. And again, he said, yeah, I haven't met anyone in Israel who has just as great faith as this guy. In Matthew 22, he even said that the Jewish leaders were not faithful with the kingdom of God, and that their position would be given to another people, for example. In fact, if you look at the Gospels of Mark and Matthew with the demon-possessed man, well, the truth is that given the fact that there were pigs nearby, and the demon requested to be sent into the pigs, rather than being cast into the abyss, the truth is that was a Gentile region. Now, this guy couldn't request help. He wasn't requesting help. He didn't even ask for it, and Jesus, of his own volition, went out, cast the demons out of him. And as I said the previous week, this man even wanted to follow Jesus wherever he went. But Jesus still granted him and said, no. You don't have to. You just go back home and tell everybody what God did for you. So, the truth of the matter is, Jesus had plenty of positive interactions with Gentiles. And at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is that, again, the gospel message is to go out and teach all nations about Jesus. Now, what about Matthew 15 then? What's that about? Which says that Jesus was sent only to the lost tribes of Israel. Well, it's very similar to what we would see in Matthew 10. For example, Jesus told his disciples during that one trip, don't go anywhere in Samaria or the Samaritans, or go into any Gentile regions. Just go to the lost tribes of Israel. Now, later we see in that same chapter, in these verses, that you will go to the Gentiles soon at a certain point. So it wasn't saying, no, don't ever go into the Gentile regions. Rather, for now, just go here. It's the same thing in Matthew 15. Jesus is saying, yes, I was sent only to the lost tribes of Israel. He didn't mean I'm never going to anybody else. And given the fact that he goes to the Gentiles, as I used in my previous examples, again, that's the more likely interpretation. In fact, given that Jesus forgave his executioners, the Romans who were crucifying him, and he asked for the Father to forgive them, again, he clearly had love for Gentiles, and that's undeniable. So given Jesus' positive interactions with Gentiles elsewhere, and again, I'll cover Matthew 15, that which he talks about in a second, we can more or less give Jesus the benefit of the doubt here, rather than just assuming the worst and that he had some type of prejudice. So that's all for this video. Next time we'll be talking about other things, but again, I will continue the response to Kristi Burke and her video, so hope to see you everybody there.